कृपाभनौ भुवि भुव भरावहं तारकौ.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you everyone for joining on this wonderful morning. Hope everyone is doing well. We will start with the prayers to the spiritual master. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, welcome. So nice to see all of you again. And today we start with chapters 15 and 16, chapter 15. So congratulations on completing Sadhana Bhakti. We're now moving into Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. So sorry, completing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Last time we just ended with that, with the final chapter on the items that do not support Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, are not required for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, but can be supportive of them, like Varnashram. Right? Last time Rupa Goswami was speaking about Varnashram and how it's not a requirement to do devotional service, it's not a requirement for bhakti, but it can be supportive of it. Now having covered the items of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and hopefully all of you have become expert in it now, we're now ready for Raganuga Bhakti. Chapter 15. This chapter describes Ragatmika Bhakti, the spontaneous devotional service of the eternal residents of Vrindavan. Ragatmika spontaneous bhakti is of two types. Although here Prabhupada uses the term Raganuga for both the perfect spontaneous devotees and those who follow them, in Chaitanya Charitamrita he uses the term Ragatmika for the perfected devotees and Raganuga for those who are following them and aspiring to be like them. So Raganuga Bhakti is the culmination of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, where devotee is a devotee is following in the footsteps. A devotee is actually emulating the activities of a devotee in Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. And they are practicing Raganuga by actually trying to learn from this devotee, that how do I serve Krishna in this spontaneous way? Why? Because there's a hankering to do so. Like after doing such nice sadhana, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the devotee now is, hankering that let me serve Krishna actually properly. Like we are, most of us on this call, I guess, are Vaidhi sadhana bhaktas, right? We're sadhakas. And we are, uh, we're feeling at times that we're doing really well, right? Let's say, so I'm getting up for Mangalartik every day. I'm attending the classes, doing such wonderful devotional service and preaching. But like in so many things, later on we realize that, oh, this is just the beginning. And so the Raganuga Bhakta, he realizes that, okay, this is my service here in this world, but let me begin the eternal service. Let me begin that service which never ends. This service also never ends, but the external manifestation ends with the body, right? And that passes away. The service that we do to, the spiritual master, to whatever project we are running, whatever, devotees we are serving, whatnot. All of that is eternal because the service to the spiritual master continues. But the activities themselves change with the end of the body. Then in his next form, the devotee may be in a different world doing something else, looking after a different project, or doing a different, preaching in a different country for Krishna. But the Raganuga service, and the Ragatmika Bhaktas, that is something that is eternal, that's internal. It's going on wherever the devotee may be in the material world. And so the devotee wants to do that because that's their intimate service to Krishna. That's their intimate devotional service that's eternal in the original spiritual position. Rupa Goswami defines Ragatmika Bhakti, spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in the thoughts of it with an intense desire of love. Once again, Ragatmika Bhakti is spontaneous attraction for something while completely absorbed in thoughts of it with an intense desire of love. Right? So it's intense absorption with intense love. Intense attraction and being completely absorbed in one's service to Krishna with intense love. The added factor of love is there. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti in its perfected state is also very intense and very intense the absorption. But that spontaneous love for Krishna has not become fully manifest. In Raganuga Bhakti, that love is, in its highest forms. So very important point here. Like Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. My understanding is different places say different places, but this is the reawakening of one's eternal relationship with Krishna. So it's something that we've always, since eternity, been absorbed in. It's something that we have a hankering to be absorbed back into that mood, into that feeling. So not something that is new, but fully natural to the soul. It's the first relationship, right? And this is why it's the deepest relationship. Just like in this world, we have so many relationships, but studies have been done, psychologists have been studied that one cannot be, no matter how bad one's parents are, one needs a decent relationship with them to be emotionally happy or satisfied. I mean, of course, there are exceptions when someone can, maybe they're very abusive or something, and someone needs to just forget that. But generally speaking, it's necessary for psychological health, for any basic thing. Even devotees, they need to connect with their parents on some level. Why? Because in this life, it's the original relationship. It's the first relationship we've known. And that's why, in some sense, it's the deepest. In Western culture, it's not seen as the primary relationship. In Western culture, the primary relationship is the romantic relationship, at least in films and things we see. But in many Asian cultures, like Japanese culture, Chinese culture, Indian culture, even after marriage, that's seen as a first relationship, most essential relationship. Why? Because it's the first one that a person has known. So that's just for this little body, temporary body, right? But even that one doesn't give us full satisfaction. Why? Because the original relationship of the soul is with Krishna. Right? The very first relationship that we have with anyone in our whole existence, the original one is with Krishna. And so until that relationship is not connected, the soul that is us never feels happy, cannot feel completely happy. And only when that is connected do we feel fully satisfied. And once that is connected, then then any other relationship, including the relationship to the parents or anyone on that level of Raganuga Bhakti, we have to be advanced to that point. Any other relationship will matter, but they won't matter so much in the sense that that won't be the primary focus, the primary source of satisfaction in our life. And just yesterday night, we were discussing this in the case of the Pandavas, right? That the Pandavas were so special. They're so spiritually advanced. Prabhupada's one quote, he said that anyone who associates directly with the Lord as his eternal associate must be very, very, very spiritually advanced. This is one lecture that Prabhupada gave. And he said, so we must understand that the Arjuna, the Pandavas, they're very, very, very spiritually advanced. And so we see in their pastimes here that they lost Abhimanyu, they lost their children, they lost, their relatives. And they were devotees also, and the children were also devotees. And though that loss was there, they were not so affected like a mature person would be. They're very affected, but not, they were still, continuing on with their life and devotional service. They weren't so affected. And how is that possible? And how could Krishna allow this for his pure devotees? Because yes, they had a very deep connection with every living being, and especially these devotee relationships that they were in such separation with afterwards. But still, the devotee's first relationship is with Krishna on the spiritual level and with his devotees. And the family relationship is still not the first relationship, right? So though it's painful, it's not painful like a materialist suffers because Krishna is there and everyone's part of Krishna. So that relationship is, is the most important. It's the number one relationship. So that's just to describe the depth of this relationship. This is not like something, okay, now I'm going to enter a drama and, I'm going to be there with Krishna in this newly found, wonderful, um, display of leelas. No, this is something very deep in the soul that's being revived, that's being revealed and revived. The attraction can be lust, fear, and envy, service, affection, and kinship. So that attraction can be in any of these ways. which is interesting. We don't think of it in terms of lust and envy, fear, but these are, as you will see, these are different ways in which that bhakti sometimes manifests. But this is completely pure. While the gopis can be categorized as lusty, this word indicates their extreme desire for Krishna and is the only word we can understand. Actual lust is to satisfy one's own senses, and the gopis' feeling is to satisfy Krishna's senses. Such a pure desire to satisfy another's senses is not found in the material world. So, Prabhupada explains in one place, he says, why this word kama is used, right? They could have said, Prabhupada could have said, his choice of words, Prabhupada's choice of words is always very intentional, right? He just doesn't use any word. He tries to use the perfect word always. So he could have used the word love, the gopis' intense love. But why does he use the word lust? And the Goswamis do as well. Of course, not in English, but in Sanskrit or in Bengali. Why it's being translated as lust? Because to impress upon us the intensity of that feeling, the intensity of the love. Because in our life, in our experience, we don't feel a greater emotion in this world than lust, right? Which drives a person mad in this world. Now, in this world, it's to the wrong object, it's the wrong intention, but it still drives us mad. Right? It's not selfless, it's selfish, but the intensity of the emotion is communicated. So therefore the word is used. Kama is the only word, right, he's saying, that can characterize this intensity, to give us some idea of it. However, in essence, their lust is different than our experience of lust. In terms of substance, it's completely different because it's an intense lust, intense pulling, drawing to satisfy Krishna's senses. And to demonstrate this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada writes how Srimati Radharani and the other gopis feel 1,000 times more pleasure in bringing another gopi to Krishna and some other gopi to bring them to Krishna than if they themselves go to Krishna. And this is the test, this is the proof that this is transcendental love. Because this is the love between a beautiful young boy and a beautiful young girl, right? The first love that we experience in this world, right? That is the real experience of, after that, as people age, it gets boring, all these things. But they say, in the teenage years, right? That's the first love. And, girls jump off of bridges, boys commit suicide, and, for that type of love, when that is there, it breaks. When I was in, I think it was Slovenia or Croatia, a long time ago, one time visited there. And there's one bridge called there, the Lovers Bridge. And the man who was driving us, he said it's not uncommon that to see a young boy or girl here considering to jump off, because that's a sign that their love has been broken. So so it's even more than self, right? But in this world, we don't find that, because the essence of this relationship, young boy, young girl, no girl will want to bring other girls between the relationship that they have with that boy. And doing so even would be, materially speaking, abhorrent, right? It would be abuse to, if let's say, doing that artificially would actually not be the right thing. But definitely no girl would not desire that. However, the gopis' love for Krishna is so pure, it's so wonderful, that they feel more satisfaction when they bring another gopi to Krishna than if they themselves worship Krishna, if they themselves associate with Krishna. The only reason that Srimati Radharani dances with Krishna and wants to serve Krishna is because she knows that Krishna is most pleased in her association. She knows that some or the other, the pleasure, the happiness, the spiritual happiness that she can give to Krishna is not comparable to any other person. No one else can offer that love to Krishna, can offer that service to Krishna in the perfect way that she does. For example, no one can cook for Krishna as wonderfully as Srimati Radharani does for Krishna. And for this reason, she does it herself. But if it would please Krishna more that someone else would do it, she would be more happy that that other person would do it. And that is the unmatched love that we cannot compare with this, what we don't find in this world. Because as selfless as it may be, the love of this world, the basis is still me, right? As selfless as my love for my children may be, or a mother's love for their children may be, the basis is still them. If they're not in the picture, then that the basis of the relationship is that this is my child. But this is in the spiritual world, the basis is not us. It's simply in pleasing Krishna. While demons such as Kansa and Shishupal achieve the same destination through their anger and envy directed at Krishna, this indicates, excuse me, that they achieved the spiritual sky. One second. Demons and impersonalists generally attain the Brahmajyoti, while devotees enter the Vaikuntha or Vrindavan pastimes. So this is the explanation or the application for the emotions of anger and envy. Of course, this is not something that we aspire for, right? So now Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada are giving examples of each type of rasa that can be engaged in Krishna's service. So we don't find in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition Raganuga Bhaktas trying to aspire for the moods of Shishupal and Kansa. No, because they enter Brahma Jyoti. They don't enter into the Vrindavan or Vaikuntha pastimes. But these are examples of how even these emotions directed to Krishna, they're attracted to Krishna. That's why they're directing them towards Krishna. Can lead one to the spiritual sky, like Prabhupada here is saying. Evidence of the purity of the gopis' love is given in the example of the strictness of Lord Chaitanya, who gave the gopis as the highest example. Kubja is given as an example of someone whose love for Krishna is almost pure desire. So, on many occasions, in many different places, Prabhupada explains that how the proof that the gopis' love is incomparable is the fact that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the greatest of renunciates, his wife was in beauty, in qualities, the goddess of fortune, right? And he gives up his maybe 16, 17-year-old wife a few years after marriage to become a sannyasi. And after that, he never even looks at the wooden form of a woman. He's so absorbed in devotional, in Krishna prema, that he's always, tears are coming out of his eyes out of spontaneous love. That caliber of a renunciate is constantly chanting Gopi, 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 right? He's constantly glorifying the love of the gopis. Therefore, their love must be so exalted. It cannot be anything comparable to this material love. And this is one reason why we, as devotees, don't discuss the Rasa Leela pastimes immaturely or immensely all the time. Because the problem is in our mind, when we see the love between boys and girls, we invariably translate it to our material experience, our material level of consciousness. And we simply cannot imagine. We simply cannot imagine the exaltedness of that love. Like some of the gopis, for example, they were sages from Treta Yuga who having received perfection, had seen Lord Ram face to face. And seeing him, they realized that kind of within their heart, they could understand that their relationship with the Lord was one in Madhurya Ras. And so they wanted to dance with Lord Ramachandra. But Lord Ramachandra said that in this incarnation, I am showing the exemplary character, example of ideal character for the world. And therefore, I have taken the vow of Ekapatni Vrata. I can only have one woman in my life, right? Not just one wife. It's the fact that he has no other, showing an ideal example, very chaste, no other lover than Mother Sita. And so I cannot, I cannot reciprocate this rasa in this form. But you wait, and in the end of Dwapar Yuga, almost in Kali Yuga, I will come. And at that time, you will be able to serve me in that way. So those sages, imagine, they were already perfected souls, and that's why they're seeing Lord Ramachandra in Treta Yuga. Now, Kali Yuga is about 500,000 years. Each age is 10 times more. So Dwapar Yuga is 5 million. Satyug, Treta, Dwapar, yeah. And then Treta Yuga is 50 million. So at some point in Treta Yuga, they met Lord Ram. And since that time, they were doing devotional service and they were waiting. So maybe let's say, maybe it was, halfway through Treta Yuga, there's 25 million years, then another 5 million years. 30 million years later, they're dancing with Krishna. And that whole time they're preparing, they're meditating on Krishna, they're chanting, they're hearing, they're in deep meditation. These are sages. And then they come in the form of gopis. They take birth in Braja as gopis and they serve Krishna. So what is the level of exaltedness of these devotees? Before them becoming gopis, they are great sages. And sages not just for 5 years, but sages for 30 million years. And before that, who knows how long, how many millions of years it took them to see Lord Ramachandra face to face. So this is the gopis. They have the deepest love for Krishna, purest love, and how great Krishna is that he's reciprocating the love of these exalted devotees. So this, so it's a great offense to cheapify it. Sahaja means to take something exalted and make it ordinary. To take something exalted as ordinary, that is sahaja. So sahaja doesn't necessarily mean that we dress up like a gopi, put lipstick on, and we start dancing with each other. Of course, that's a very obvious form of sahaja. But sahaja also means all of us can be sahajas if we take something very exalted, like these descriptions that we're reading in the Nectar of Devotion, and we make it ordinary. And that becomes an offense, and then we get reaction for that. Therefore, who is it? Maybe Vrindavan Das Thakur says that it's a disturbance for Krishna's pastimes when a materialistic devotee starts to recite the Rasa Leela, because Krishna is in his pastimes and a materialist is trying to get, poke their nose into it, disturb it It becomes a disturbance for Krishna. And that's why, the reason why in our tradition, our philosophy, not that we cannot, but we don't, voluntarily, we don't talk about Rasika topics all the time. Right? People ask that, outside of ISKCON, they're doing this, and in ISKCON, we're still keeping devotees on the materialistic level, and we don't discuss the intricacies of Krishna's Rasa Leela. What is wrong? Or, ISKCON isn't giving the highest thing. Prabhupada isn't giving the highest thing. Actually, the situation is the opposite. That those who are immaturely trying to meddle into these pastimes without proper realization, without properly hearing it from Prabhupada, from pure devotees, they are creating the disturbance. They are not doing the real thing. But Prabhupada's process of gradually opening our heart so that we can truly understand, appreciate at least a little bit the depth of their love, by purifying our existence first, that is actually entering into this, right? That is actually giving the real thing. And so Prabhupada is just, he's the most Rasika Bhakta. He's just not making it cheap. And so that's why, like my Guru Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he said that he wanted that his disciples not leave ISKCON and try to find an easy way out, right? It's not that Prabhupada is not giving the real thing, but rather those who want this immaturely, they just want an easy way out without putting in the effort to deserve to know these things. Simultaneously, Prabhupada is so merciful that he gives us the Rasa Leela, the whole Rasa Leela, in the form of Krishna book, that we can go and give to people who smoke cigarettes and eat meat. And they read it, and we read it through the Krishna book, no problem. Why? Because if you read Prabhupada's description of Rasa Leela in the Krishna book, 90% of it is philosophy. He presents it in such a way that he makes sure that the reader can never misunderstand it. So hearing it through the lips of a pure devotee is the proper way to do it. So we can hear it as often as we want, but through Prabhupada's Krishna book, reading it and hearing it, or from other devotees who are repeating what Prabhupada is saying. And I once asked His Holiness Romapad Swami Maharaj, I said, if Rasa Leela is most purifying, can we just hear that all the time? He says, no. He says, nice try. And at the same time, follow Prabhupada's process, which is, read all of Krishna's pastimes. So we can read the Rasa Leela in the form of Krishna book. At the same time, Prabhupada didn't just want that we read those chapters. We read the Krishna book from the beginning to the end, so that we can prepare our consciousness to understand Krishna's greatness by the time we come to the Rasa Leela. So in Krishna's Rasa Leela, the gopis are the highest example, but then there's others who are attracted to Krishna, but they're not on the level of the gopis. So their love is not fully matured. And how is it possible? We can meet Krishna, but our love is not fully mature. It's possible. All the time it's seen. Where, for example, the denizens of heaven, they are observing Krishna's Rasa Leela from their, airplanes. And they're so moved by it, it's described, that they're sometimes falling off those airplanes, because they're just like overcome by its beauty, and they lose consciousness of where they are, and they topple off, or their clothes loosen, or the hair, their flowers in their hair fall. Yet at the same time, even after watching the Rasa Leela, they don't become prema bhaktas, they don't become pure devotees. And again, it was a question that I asked Maharaj, His Holiness Ramapal Maharaj, that how is it possible that someone can see Krishna's Rasa Leela and not become a pure devotee of Krishna? And he said, no, it's possible, because like Krishna tells the gopis, purification of the heart happens through hearing and chanting about Krishna. If we just see him but our heart is not purified, it will obviously help us advance, but Dhruva, he becomes a pure devotee upon seeing Krishna because he's practicing devotional service. Look at how intense his practice was. So when he sees Krishna, tears of love flow down his eyes, and he becomes completely disenchanted from material life. But the demigods, even after that, they're still attached. They're attached to their heavenly positions, all these things, because you can see Krishna, you can be in touch with Krishna, but still not get that level of devotion unless we have the right mood and the practice and the mercy. Their seeing Krishna is like our seeing the deity, right? We see Krishna every day, but when we see Krishna, we see him as the deity, not as Krishna himself. When Prabhupada saw the deity, he saw Krishna. In the same way, when Kubja is seeing Krishna, she's seeing Krishna, but is not able to enter into love for Krishna. She's seeing him a little bit like a deity, not fully able to see Krishna. And so her love becomes perfectly pure through association of Krishna, but it's almost pure. It doesn't start off as completely pure. She wants Krishna for herself, unlike the gopis who just want Krishna to serve Krishna. And that's the end of chapter 15. So it was a short chapter. I was thinking that maybe normally we do questions right at the end. Let's see how big chapter 16 is. I can't remember. Yeah, it's a long chapter, I think. So we could do a little bit of it. But before that, let's see if there's any comments, questions. I observed that today we are blessed with His Grace Madan Gopal Prabhu's association. He's also on the call. So if you have any questions, comments, maybe he's not here now or still here. Let me see. So please, yes, any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Vishwapaji Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
It was a very nice question, Prabhuji. Actually, a very nice class, Prabhuji. My question is based from the question from the class you did yesterday. So last day you talked about the how that we don't need jnana and vairagya in our bhakti, and we should not at the same time, unless it's not needed, reject prasad. And just after that, I had an incident, and in our temple, there were a lot of sweets. So they were serving me sweet, and there's a lot of dye, a lot of color in them, and it's my and so I know that, and my mother tells me that I should not be eating too much sweets and too much dye and color, and so because I'm a kid, they're like, okay, take it, it's Mahaprasad. So how do I not become Falgu Vairagi? How do I not offend that devotee, and how do I not reject Mahaprasad?
So jnana and vairagya are helpful in the practice of devotional life, but jnana vairagya by themselves don't give us devotional service, right? So so it's not that they're not needed. They are needed. They must be practiced, but by itself, jnana vairagya is not devotional service. That's what Rupa Goswami was saying. So your effort is very nice, and the way to do this is that we engage that desire, that attraction, and we dovetail it in Krishna service. So the attraction to eating sweets, I actually also have that attraction. I also like sweets. And the way we do that is that, like you're saying, we want to offer Krishna the best sweets. So if it's not good for you, it's also not good for Krishna to have dye in the sweets, right? So you think, well, I can offer Krishna the best sweets, and then I can eat those. Then I can consume those.
Yeah, but like in the temple, like they if let's say they already offered the prasad, so how do, even though I can't reject Mahaprasad at the same time?
Yes, that's a good question. Well, one cannot reject it, but one can take a little bit of it. Right? Like Raghunath Das Goswami, he was a pure devotee of the Lord, and he knew the greatness of Jagannath Mahaprasad. But it's described that he wouldn't take Jagannath Mahaprasad because Raghunath Das Goswami felt that it was too opulent. He said that this is Mahaprasad, but my senses are so disturbed, out of his humility, he would think, that if I eat this opulent food, I will start enjoying it rather than accepting it as Mahaprasad of Krishna. So it's Mahaprasad, but when I'm taking it, I'm thinking this is nice, tasty food for my enjoyment. And this is why he intentionally would take Mahaprasad, but the part that was thrown out, the rotten Mahaprasad, right? So of course we cannot imitate him. But what we can do is to honor Mahaprasad. We can take less of it. And at the same time, then we don't enjoy it too much, right? And that's something I'm working on myself. It's not easy. This is why Rupa Goswami says, Vacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam, that the first one that is binding us to this world is the tongue, right? Is the tongue. Because we want to enjoy it.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Very nice question, Om. Thank you for that question. Very deep question. Hari Priya.
Hare Krishna, bro. This is actually a question from my side.
Okay.
So, bro, yeah, I was wondering, like, I know you touched on this in today's class, but of course, like the love in the spiritual world, we see that it's the purest and it's the highest form of love. But in the material world also, like if we see, yeah, for example, like not, of course, in devotional service, it's different, but like just in general, we see people like working selflessly. Yeah, even though, of course, it's not eternal like the spiritual world. So how can we understand it and connect it to the Lord?
So people working selflessly who are devotees or selflessly who are not devotees?
I guess in both cases, bro. Yeah.
So that's the thing. It depends upon a very nice question. It depends on how selfless it is, right? How selfless is it actually? Like a politician, right? Selflessly working for their nation, right? It's like, okay, for the benefit of America and American, workers and American this and that, and stop American immigration so the criminals don't come in. They're also selflessly working, but it's selfless for their country, right? It's not selfless for everyone. It's not selfless for other countries. It's not selfless for other people. Because they're born in that country, therefore they're being selfless towards their countrymen, like a soldier who's fighting in a battle for his country. But why are you limiting your service to your country person? That's selfishness, right? So that's why only a pure devotee, their love is truly selfless, because it has to do with the soul, for every soul, for anyone. Prabhupada, when he came, he didn't distinguish between black, white, American, Indian. It was for every soul because it's for Krishna, nothing for himself. So to the degree of our advancement, to that degree, it'll be selfless. So someone may be doing it on the basis of the fact that they're a good Christian. So they're doing it for God and they can be selfless. And that's what you're seeing. Oh, okay, well, this person is not completely a demon. They're also selfless because maybe they're following another spiritual path. They're still doing it for God. At the same time, what is the level, right? Because sometimes people connect their religion with their nationalism. So it becomes a materialistic religion. I'm a Christian, I'm an American, I'm a, Yankee, and I'm doing this, right, for my group. So it's auspicious, but it's not all auspicious. And like we read in the Nectar devotion, I think chapter 2 was it, that the first characteristic of devotional service, of pure devotional service, if it truly is, it should be all auspicious for everyone. It can't be limited. Even among devotees, right? You see this. So a good example, you see, like they're serving, but it's for their group. They have they'll sacrifice, but it has to be for their group. So it's they're on the path, but it's not fully purified.
Sure, yes, thank you, bro. So I guess that's where Krishna consciousness comes in because everyone is the Lord's part and parcel, so it puts everything into perspective.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
bro.
There's truth everywhere, but the complete form of truth, the original form of truth, that is Krishna consciousness. Yes. Well, nice question. Thank you, Radhika. Divya Bhakti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for yet another wonderful class. I'd like a little bit of clarification. So in one of the slides, you said that demons such as Kamsa and Shishupal achieved the same destination through their anger and envy that was directed at Krishna, indicating that they achieved the spiritual sky. But then it also says that demons and impersonalists generally attain the Brahma Jyoti, and devotees enter Vaikuntha or Vrindavan pastimes. So it doesn't seem like it's the same destination.
Yes. No, I may have misspoken. It's the same destination in the sense that it's the spiritual sky. And so therefore, even the Rupa Goswami is giving them as an example. Like it's still glorious to some degree that they're going to the spiritual sky. But it's a different destination in the sense that it's a different place in the spiritual world, right? One is attaining the Brahma Jyoti, the other is attaining Vaikuntha. So it's a big gulf of difference.
So what is the spiritual sky?
So spiritual sky has many parts to it, and some are more confidential, others are less. But all of them, any place where the abode of the Lord is there is perfectly perfect spiritual. Most of the planets are Vaikuntha planets, where Lord Vishnu resides. If you see like the paintings in my understanding, I've never been there recently, at least. So I don't know the details, but if you see like Prabhupada's paintings of the Vaikuntha Lok, you see all of the different planets with each one of Vishnu forms and devotees going there and serving them in different Vishnu forms. And then Golok, or you could say I think like Krishna's, the actual abode there has three parts. One is Goloka, Krishna's abode. Another is Saket, which is Lord Ram's abode. And the third one is, maybe the third one is the Vishnu part. So there's different areas in which, and all of these, Prabhupada says, are spiritual planets where the devotees relate with Krishna in their relationship with him. So in the rasa that they're attached to him, based on their love for Krishna and their rasa, they will attain Krishna in that planet. But the demons, the big exception to that is that they merge into the effulgence of the Lord. So they're not actually going to the spiritual world, right? They're not actually reaching that spiritual world, but they're only reaching the effulgence.
So is the spiritual sky no longer part of the material world then? Like is the Brahma Jyoti outside, is that away from the material world then?
So the Brahma Jyoti is light, right? It's the effulgence. And the material world is like a small cloud that rests in the Brahma Jyoti. So ultimately, the material world is also Brahman because it's coming from Krishna. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, ultimately, everything is spirit. Our consciousness, our use of it turns it into material. But in its essence, everything is spiritual. At the same time, we have Krishna's material energy and his spiritual energy, because the material world also has a different characteristic. It's everything is spiritual in the sense that everything's connected with Krishna, meaning the devotee can make everything spiritual by connecting with Krishna. But as far as substance, there is the material energy and there's a spiritual energy. So that material energy is resting, that cloud of this material world, which is also Krishna's energy. So in that way, it's Brahman-like. It's resting in the Brahma Jyoti. When the demons are killed by Krishna, they merge into the effulgence of Krishna, which is all pervasive. It's one. And so they just merge into that. It's not like there's a left part to it, a right part, because it is one. It's just the effulgence of Krishna. So they merge into that, but they actually don't go to the spiritual planet.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Again, a very nice question, because yeah, that's where Prabhupada says, Bhagavatam says patanti adha, that such people eventually fall down again, who get that liberation. It's not a true liberation, because one cannot merge, right? One is not merging. It's not possible to make two things into one. We are separate from Krishna. All it means is that we're sitting there quite bored. And once we become too bored, he says, we fall down again. Yes. They're entering the spiritual sky for some time. Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu.
Yeah, actually, I had a same question, Prabhuji. Similar to on top of that was like, even can we not consider that as for the pleasure of the Lord? These devotee, fall down and they show by their example, how we should be dealing with Krishna, not with anger, not with all those material senses, but with the real love, with the Atmika Bhav.
Yes, so that's very well said. I mean, that's the exact actually point, that also there's different types of demons, and once they're killed, they have different abodes. So in the case of Dantavakra and Shishupal and all these demons, they had to take another birth as a demon. So you could say temporarily they merge into Krishna's body. Why? Because they had to come back as Jagai and Madhai. But these demons were originally associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha. And that's why their destination, after being killed 4 times, the last one, they weren't killed, as Jagai and Madhai liberated, then they go back to the spiritual world and they continue their service as Jai and Vijay. So certain demons, if they're fortunate, they get the mercy of Krishna, they can go back, because not every demon has the same story. Another good example is Putana. Putana is a demoness. However, in her last life, Putana is Bali Maharaj's sister, right? And she feels anger towards Krishna. She's a devotee. She's not a demon, but she feels anger towards Krishna. So therefore, she comes back as Putana, so Krishna can purify that anger. Once it's purified, then she becomes Krishna's mother, one of Krishna's millions of mothers in the spiritual world, meaning in the mood of the mother. She's an example of actually a Raganuga Bhakta who's following in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhakta, that's Mother Yashoda, after she's killed as Putana. So yes, devotees, they will find their spiritual position in the spiritual world, depending on what their mood is. But an ordinary demon will just merge and then fall back again and then become a sadhaka again, and hopefully then come to Krishna in a more positive way. Remember, the definition of pure devotional service is anukulena krishnanu, that it's service that has to be done favorably. So the fact that they as demons are serving Krishna but not favorably means that it's not pure devotional service. And that's why, because it's not pure, they can't enter into the spiritual world. They must fall down again.
Very well. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. I was also thinking like from Jai Vijay perspective, they are at the door, they are not inside.
Mm.
So they are still outside the door.
Oh,
But
I see.
yeah,
No, that they're inside. That's just their service, because
yeah.
they know everything that's going on inside. It's just like that's what they do. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Rupa Sen Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it was nice class. It's always,
Thank you.
nice to hear from, Saturday morning, Prabhu, I have one question. So I've been, pray for the devotees, when I see they're doing different type of activities, like besides like cooking meat and serving meat, So besides I pray for them, how can I, encourage them like face to face? Because sometimes all the devotees are very sensitive about it, even out that, comes to them that time, or, they have a bad time at ISKCON, so they applying on those things and get very super sensitive. So how do I actually protect them to not to do that? It hurts to see when they're doing that.
Yes. Yeah, Mataji, yeah. Sometimes I've noticed devotees are so sensitive that we say anything to them. Like we even try to work it out. We say, what are you doing this? Why are you doing this? They will become very disturbed, right? So Krishna, the Gita says that the devotee does not agitate the minds of others, but engages them in devotional service. So without disturbing their mind, he engages them in devotional service, and through that method puts them back in that process. So we have to try, and there's no easy way. We have to try to be very expert that, well, without maybe telling them what they're doing is wrong, how can I engage them in devotional service? So sometimes we have to speak up, like, I think it becomes a point, maybe we have to say something. But generally speaking, if we, people's minds don't change because their mind and their ideas are attached to their ego, but their activities change, and then gradually you can change their mind. So, Jayananda Prabhu was like this in Prabhupada's time. Anyone who came, he was like, can you help me take out the trash? Can you help me build Lord Jagannath's cart? So, okay, they're engaging in these things, they're eating meat, all these things. That they will not give up because they already know it's wrong. And you're coming and telling them that, this is wrong, is going to just make them more defensive. But if there's something positive going on, which they think is not really ISKCON, it's just you as a person, as a friend, is involving them in, then they'll get involved in that project. And then because it's an ISKCON project or whatever, then they'll become reconnected. Because what people really want is someone to want them. What really people want is belonging, and they want affection. They want someone to call them, miss them. So if they get some attention, someone who cares for them, then they respond to it. That's generally the case. Sometimes it's beyond repair, but oftentimes they just they're going to a place where people are not valuing them, or they don't feel valued. And if someone values them, then they think, okay, I've got a role here.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was nice.
Thank you. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anything else? Should we do a few slides of the next chapter, or should we end here? I'm okay either way. Normally I end by 8:30, unless it's a special thing. So I feel Srinivas Pundarika Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yes, actually, Hare Krishna. And Prabhu, you actually sent me a question. Maybe you can ask it now and we can discuss it now.
Oh, sure, Prabhuji. Thank you. I just want to add one thing, regarding the last you spoke, regarding the karma. It remembers me, on one of the lectures where, Ramanujacharya was asked, out of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, what he liked the most. And Ramanujacharya responded, I like karma the most. And everybody was wondered, and understanding the mood, Ramanujacharya responded, I mentioned it is Krishna karma. So it reminds me that that one. So regarding my question, Prabhuji, regarding the prescribed duties, right? We in the third chapter, in the fourth and fifth, we see prescribed duties mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So I understand the prescribed duties could be like, based on the Varnashrama or Swadharma, and based on our guna and karma, right? But in this Kali Yuga, right, most of the people do not follow any Varnashrama Dharma, right? So we do, the work, that we get, but how we make sure that whatever we do purifies our senses, and performing the Nishkama Karma. So how in this time, how can we say that, by doing the prescribed duties, it will purify your senses? That is my question.
And how can we say that by doing prescribed duties, it purifies our senses? And what is the context of that? Meaning that, why is it that doesn't make sense again to you?
Right. In the second chapter and third chapter, Prabhupada mentions that doing a prescribed duty and then offering the results, right? Offering the results to Krishna and getting it detached, it purifies your senses, and so that you realize yourself. But we are not doing the prescribed duties, in general population. People do not do the prescribed duties at all. But then the duty, how we can purify it, or my question is how it is applicable in the Kali Yuga where most of the people do not do the prescribed duties
Yes.
at all.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, actually, this is why Prabhupada wanted to establish Varnashram. Because in Kali Yuga, in the way that we are, no one is doing their prescribed duty.
Yes.
So there's no purification.
Yes.
So prescribed duty is a process of gradual purification, which supports the process of bhakti. So if we're not doing our prescribed duties, then we're engaging most likely in sinful activities or in frivolous activities, and then there's no purification of the heart. And then one or two people who are serious in spiritual life are taking it, but then the mass of people, their consciousness remains the same. So to change society as a whole, the realization is that not everyone is going to move in the temple or join the temple. So to help society as a whole, how will we do it? Prabhupada's idea was establish Varnashram, because then people will do the work that they're used to doing, but they will do it in the way of Varna Ashram so that there will be the gradual purification of their existence. So now in Kali Yuga, you mentioned, right? Varnashram is not there. Therefore, we're trying to establish Varnashram. But until it's not established, Varnashram is not there, then even then, people should be encouraged to do their prescribed duty, because that will be the path of their perfection. So, of course, we encourage them engage in pure devotional service. But if they're not willing to do that, or even if they are willing to do that, we also encourage them to do their prescribed duty, because that is the way of perfection. I remember one incident, there's one man who came to His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and Maharaj was giving darshans, and he came and he said, my mother has been sick since many, many years, and she passes stool and urine in her bed, and then I go and I clean it, and I, like it's a full-time care, because, it's like we see so many times in America, also the elderly, they need that full-time care. And he says, sometimes I feel very frustrated because I feel that because of this, I cannot engage in devotional service, right? I cannot go and serve in the temple. I cannot preach. I cannot do this because my hands are tied. So, Maharaj, what should I do? And being, a sannyasi, a guru, he thought that Maharaj would say, okay, family's there, but go out preaching and, engage in devotional service. And but Maharaj's response shocked him. Maharaj told him, no, you continue with this. This is your service to Krishna. This is, because he basically said, I don't want to do it. And and uh, and my Guru Maharaj said, no, but that's why Krishna's put you in this situation, because this is your path of purification. This is your service to Krishna. And also you have to do your chanting and you do everything else, but this is prescribed duty, and that's purification of the heart. Though it doesn't seem like it's devotional service, but if done for Krishna, if the prescribed duty, when it's done for Krishna, is devotional service, and escaping that is sometimes not devotional service. That's actually Maya. That's like Arjuna trying to flee from his battle, right? Fighting is a very materialistic activity, and that was Arjuna's prescribed duty. But again, to our point, what we're discussing today is that we can only get to the level of spontaneous Raganuga Bhakti when the heart is purified, because this is not ordinary. This is not cheap. So through the process of prescribed duty, his fighting in the battle, which he doesn't want to do, Krishna is saying, your heart will be purified, because this is your devotional service to me. And if not doing it will be, you are thinking not doing it is being spiritually advanced, being a renunciate, but not doing it is your attachment. That is not devotional service, right? That is your own sense enjoyment. So So prescribed duty is only prescribed duty when it's not being done for Krishna. When we do the prescribed duty for Krishna, then it's devotional service. And in fact, it can become pure devotional service. Because what matters is who we are doing it for. Am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it for my family? Or am I doing it for Krishna or his pure devotee? And when we have that higher cause that I'm doing this for Krishna's pure devotee, then we are, then it's pure devotional service.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Well explained. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Nice question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. I'm still trying to understand the difference between Ragatmika and Raganuga. So the aspiring, so Kubja, would she be Raganuga or Ragatmika? And then the examples of the pure devotees, the Mahajans, are they Ragatmika? Like, I'm sorry, maybe I'm getting too stuck on the definitions, but
good questions. Yes. I was actually wondering about that myself, that what is the role, what is the state of Kubja? Because on one hand, she is not completely pure. It's said she had still lusty desires in her heart, like material lusty desires, but she was applying it to Krishna. She had lusty desires, but she was a hunchback lady, but a young lady, but she could not have any husband. And lusty in the sense of she was like, I need a husband. And then she sees beautiful Krishna coming down. It's just like, just like her eyes fluttered open. She wanted Krishna, and so she invites him into her place, and then Krishna makes her straight and then purifies her, right? So she is kind of an example of like a Kripa Siddha, right? Someone who is just becomes perfected by causeless mercy. It's like good fortune. Krishna's walking down the street. She's in the right place, the right time. She gets the mercy. She's not really on the path of sadhana. She's not like a sadhaka who's chanting rounds every day and like, okay, let's follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Nor is she perfected, right? So she's an example of a Kripa Siddha, someone who gets mercy because they get mercy. And Krishna has every right to do that. We can also be Kripa Siddhas. And in fact, Prabhupada says that every single one of us is actually Kripa Siddha because unlike the sages, we don't worship Krishna for 30 million years to get him. If we ever attain it, if we reach it, it'll be just by Prabhupada's mercy. We were at the right place at the right time and we got Prabhupada's mercy and Lord Chaitanya's mercy and our spiritual master's mercy. And that's why we have so much to be grateful for. But even the Kripa Siddhas, once they come to their senses or when they're in that process, they practice sadhana. So after Krishna leaves, we don't know what Kubja did. But after Ajamil comes to his senses, we know what he did. He goes to Haridwar and there he seriously practices Krishna consciousness. Seriously. It's like finally I got, my mind got straight, and so I'm seriously practicing. So everyone, though they may even be Kripa Siddha, but still they have to develop that love for Krishna intentionally because it's voluntary. And like Jagai and Madhai, another nice example, right? Clearly Kripa Siddha. They're the greatest criminals in the world. They were, killing children, raping women, murdering old people. And Lord Nityananda liberates them. But after they're liberated, it's not like, they're in Shiva's Angan and they're dancing with all the devotees. If you read Chaitanya Bhagavat, both Jagai and Madhai, they're digging the kunda, and whoever comes to that bathing ghat, they're serving them. Every person who comes, they're begging them, please forgive what we did to you or to your family members. So they go through that process of sadhana bhakti, of purification of the heart. Because again, they want to, and Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya tell them to. Because they must, want it. One gets the mercy that brings it, but one still then performs the activities of devotional service to reach that stage. So she was probably on a fast track, like Jagai and Madhai. They're fast track, but doing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti until they reach perfection. Like another example is a prostitute in Haridas Thakur. Right? Due to the association of Haridas Thakur, the prostitute becomes a pure devotee. She shaves her head, gives everything away, and 24 hours a day, following the footsteps of Haridas Thakur, she's chanting. And so she goes through the stage of sadhana really fast, but she still goes through it. She still goes through all those stages, from sadhana, then raga, nuga, and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So to answer your question in one sentence, it's not a one size fits all. It's every devotee has a relationship with Krishna, and they are working in that relationship, and it's very personal. So we don't know exactly where they are in their spiritual development. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Very nice. So I think we'll end here. It's almost 8:30, and next time we will do chapter 16, and I'll share the homework. So please keep up with it, and we're almost done. Few more chapters, and then we go to chapter 19, and then we'll take the exam for Nectar Devotion, and then we'll go on. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.